Great. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. We might just have to change around the agenda a little bit, but might just get started since we're 5 minutes after time. I would like to record this meeting, and if you can all keep your mics on mute, that would be great because this is something that we're going to keep for other people who are interested in using Power BI. So what I'm going to do is start recording, and if you have any concerns or questions, you should all be able to see the chat, um, and we'll get started. So my name is Jen, and I'm the Primero lead for the interim. I'm very excited to have you all join this session, and I'm just going to share my screen and walk through our plans for today. So I'm hoping you're able to see my screen, and if not, please feel free to unmute and let me know. So for today, I would love if anybody could just put into the chat their name, their title, and why you're here, just so everyone can understand who's on this call, because I know a lot of you, but you may not know each other. And really, I just want to make sure that we have connections with one another, since one of the main things with Primero is how we work together to improve our programming. And this is really why we're here. So I will walk through what the point of today is and what is the Primero Data Challenge and responsible data for children. And then in today's agenda, we're going to be walking through hands-on training on how to integrate with Power BI. So Mamadou Tour, who is our West and Central Africa Primero deployment specialist, is going to be leading us through that exercise. And then after, we're going to have Lama, who's from UNRWA, walk through exactly how this is applied at UNRWA and how it's been improving programming. And then I will be walking you through the child functioning module, which is a new module within Primero, and really want to just discuss our way forward and see who is interested in those different tools. So before we get into these presentations and the hands-on part with Power BI, I just really wanted to give you a refresher on why are we here and what is the Primero Data Challenge. So Primero currently is live in nearly 75 countries. And really what we want to do is, because each program is so customized, we wanted to have a forum where everyone can come together to be able to improve responsible and effective data usage and be able to provide insights into your programming. That's why we are all here. And we want to be able to work together and build that capacity and strengthen the community, since all of you are doing very similar things when it comes to Primero and the data that is being collected in Primero, but we want to see how this can be applied in different ways. And also, by sitting together on calls like this, for us on the Primero team, it it improves our Primero products and our services. Sorry, for whoever is not on mute, if you could unmute your mic, that would be greatly appreciated. Sorry, I'm just going to mute the participants. Thanks. So coming back to the goals, really the idea of being together here on this call is we really want to have better data for better results for children and survivors of violence. And that's our way forward. This is going to be our sixth Primero Data Challenge, and we want to have this every quarter, and we continue to have this every quarter. And really the idea is I want this to be progressive and participatory, and it is like a webinar, but we want to always have a specific scope and problem. So typically what we do on the Primero team is reach out to all of the country teams and program teams and partners to see what are the different use cases and challenges that you currently have, and then showcase them in this quarterly forum. So the idea is at the end of this year, we want to be able to give you prizes. We want to create incentives to have more responsible data use. And so we want to, at the end of this year, vote for the best solution that you saw in 2024. And then that team gets to pick a new feature or functionality that we are going to develop on the Primero product. So with that said, I'm now going to get into the actual reason I think a lot of you guys are here for is how do we integrate with Power BI? One thing you typically might hear with Primero is that it's not really a complex reporting tool. You can build reports. We now have a new functionality called Insights, which are part of the system, but there might be more and expanded integrations that you need, just like Power BI, where you can manipulate and visualize data. So before I hand over to Mamadou, I really just want to make sure you have two things before we can get started. You need to have the Power BI desktop app downloaded to your computer. You can Google this. It's a free download, and this needs to be downloaded before you can even get started in today's walkthrough. The second thing that you need is access to a demo website. So, for example, I know we have system administrators here from various countries. So, what you can use is your demo site for today's training. And so you will use the whether it's demo dash Iraq or demo dash Romania.primero.org. That's the website you're going to use. And then the login information you're going to use is any user with case level access. So a caseworker, for example, who might have a caseload, that's the login information that you're going to use. If you're joining and you do not have access to a Primero demo site and you need access to be able to proceed and you already have downloaded the Power BI app, what I have on the screen here is our playground. This is our demo site that we use for our demo purposes, as well as a username and a password. So I'm going to stick this into the chat, and when Mamadou says this is the information that you need, you'll be able to use this information to move forward. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to kindly ask actually if you can turn off your camera, just because it might be a little bit hard for some people with who are sharing with sharing cameras, as well as with now sharing screens. So I'm going to also turn off my camera just to make sure that everyone has proper data connection to be able to see Mamadou's screen, and hand over to him to get us started. If you have any questions or comments, please put them directly into the chat, and happy to answer them as we go. So thanks, Mamadou, for joining, and thanks everyone for your participation.
Thank you, Jan. Hello, everybody. I'm Toure Mamadou Aliazi. I'm from UNICEF West and Central Regional Africa, a regional office, and I'm working there as a child protection case management and information management consultant. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and we will start to see together how we can link easily Power BI and Primero. 1 minute, please. And for this, as Jan already said, we just need to have an account where we have access to the case and Power BI desktop. If it's okay for my screen, please let me know.
Yes, I can see your screen. Thanks, Mamadou.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. This is demo from Benin, and to connect to the system, we just need to open our system, go to case here. And when we are in case, now we just need to select all the case statute. For example, here we have open, closed, transferred, and duplicate. This is to be sure that we can have all the information at the same time, and we apply. And after applying, we just have to come here in the URL and copy it. If we copy the URL, we need to go to the Notepad now. We have Notepad here to edit this URL. Okay, so I'm going to explain you how the URL is working. For example, here we have our CPIMS plus demo URL. And after .org/ we need to add API here in this part, API. And after case, we need to delete all these elements, field short. Why? If we don't delete this element, it will show us only a few fields, not all the case management field. We delete it. And you see we have our four statute, case statute. The first one is open. We have the second one closed. The third one transferred. And the last one duplicate. We have the four elements we choose here. And if we continue, how many cases we want per page? For example, we can go to 1,000. For page one, for example, we can decide to load 1,000 cases in the same time. And we just need to copy this customized URL. And after it, we need to come to our Power BI desktop. And in Power BI desktop, we go to get data there, and we go to data source as web. We need now to pass our customized URL here. And OK. If we take OK, in this page, we need to come in basics. In basics, here we are going to use the same ID and password we are using to connect on Primero. From my side, it's Mamadou Touré. And the password, I put my Primero password there. And OK. The system will automatically redirect us on Power Query. This is Power Query. And we have exactly our Primero database on Power Query. Yeah. The first thing I start to do is to change the name of the database. Challenge the name, for example. And now we need to organize our data. For example, sometimes the way it appears is not really it's not easy to use. So we can decide, for example, to change the title here, data sets we have, for example, what. So I can let it and go directly to here, right click, replace value, and then female, for example, here, female, I can change it with female like that. And all the new case will be changed automatically. Mal, you have mal here, you can change it. For example, you can change it by mal like that. You can change it like mal like that. And you have the children name. It's not necessary to have this information. So I think I have one error here, female, like that. I need to change it female as female. Okay. The name of the children, what we used to do, we delete it. It's not necessary to have it. Case statute, for example, here we have open, close. We can change this directly. This is the most important part of the work. It can take one day, 1 or 2 days. Open and close. Okay, I just add you some few elements. You have religion. This is the workflow is the same. You can change it in the same way. And I'm just looking for data for protection concern. For example, it's possible to use filter directly here, but this is another process. So I really want to show you the easy way to extract the multi-select data. 1 minute, please. And I'm going to find, this is the location. If you want to have, for example, map, you can use this one, and perhaps we are going to create map in the system. You have, for example, protection concern here. And you see, as it's multi-select, it's not possible to show them directly here. So you can just take this one with arrow and select, develop on new, and you have all your protection select, your concern there. Now you can apply and close. The system will load your database now. Okay. You have your database here. This is all the elements you have, for example, in your CPIMS plus Primero. If you want to have, for example, the number of child, for example, you can look for sex here, data sex. For example, the number of cases by sex, and now you can customize your you can customize, for example, how many how you want to show your graph. And if you want to have a number of children, for example, sometimes for the number of children I use case ID. Number of children here, 75, for example, number of children. And you can change this one directly here. Children. Okay, you have the number of children. If you want to have an idea, for example, on, and this is very easy for the person who already used to work on Power BI, they know, for example, how to customize their own dashboard. You can add, for example, I'm going just to add a third one, or let me take the registration date. You take the registration date you have, for example, this filter here with registration date, which depend when you want to have the case open. If I put like that, the number will change. So this depends now how you want to customize. And you can add, for example, map and all the other information. Now let's go to the CPIMS Plus and create new case. I decide, for example, to create new case. And I save. Okay. I just create new case in the CPIMS. Normally in the past, I have 75 case in my system. I just create new case. If I update my Power BI, normally you see now I am in 76. And this is a Power BI desktop. If you finalize your system, you can decide to load it directly on Power BI online system. But for this, you need to have a Power BI license. It's approximately, I think, $10 per month. If you load your system online, you can decide when you want the data to be updated automatically. For example, I'm going to show you one system. This, for example, is for Burkina Faso. And the data are updated every morning at 6:30. And we just have to set up it in the system. Let me show it to you. You decide when you want the data to be updated. And if you totally finalize to set up your dashboard, you put it online and decide. And at this time, all the data will be automatically updated. So not need to come every morning, every week, or every month to update. It's not necessary to export your database to and make different update. You can set up it directly to the system. So let me show this one to you. So it doesn't work. I don't know now, but this is just to show you how it's working. Perhaps I have a connection issue. I will say later why it's working like that. So if there is any question, Jan, it will be a pleasure for me to try to answer.
Thanks, Mamadou. This is great. We get a lot of questions about Power BI, and so I know a lot of questions are coming through in the chat. I just want to maybe just repeat some of them just that are key points. So one was that you do need access to the cases to be able to link any of the Primero data into Power BI. So it cannot be a role that only has access, for example, to the reports. The other thing is right now, you can do this for free and you can set this up on your own computer if you have no license. But if you would like to have this display on some sort of public website, like how Mamadou showed you Burkina Faso, that's when you need to have that specific type of license. And then anybody can just go into this website address and they can apply the filters, just like how Mamadou has there at the top of the screen. And then they can see what information is being collected, which is aggregate and anonymized. Another thing that we do just on the Primero team, because we don't have the appropriate license, is you can always just send screenshots of whatever you have in on your desktop for those people who need like specific information for mandatory reporting. Is there any other questions? Actually, sorry, Nebraska, I see yours. So would it be possible to link after filtering Primero to specific dates of registration? Sometimes it's needed to show visualization of the previous month, and still we have the date of the beginning of the other months. Mamadou, I don't know, in your Burkina Faso example, do you have a date filter?
Yes.
Maybe you can
In
show
Burkina
that.
Faso,
Yeah.
we have date filter here. And we can decide to select the date where you want to see the data.
Perfect. Thanks, Mamadou. I hope that answers your question, Nabra. So we are able to filter to specific dates of registration in Power BI.
And it's possible, it's depend how you want to configure your system. It's possible, for example, to add closure date, a case plan approbation date, all the elements you have on your system, on your database here, all the elements you have in your database here. For sure, you can have report on it. This is possible.
Awesome. Thanks, Mamadou. Any other questions from anyone? Feel free to either raise your hand. You don't have to use the Q&A or the chat. Or if you're walking through this, if you're having any challenges, please let us know. Avanti, go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Mamadou, we discussed this briefly the last time, but you mentioned there was this step to anonymize or de-identify some of the data in there. Where does that step come in?
Okay, thank you, Avanti. This step, because for now, we're trying to see how it's possible to have limitation for the public user. So what we really do in all the country, we just publish the non-identifiable data. That's why in Power BI, for example, you have option. If you come here and right click, show data as table, you can come back in the database. You see, you have possibility, for example, to come back in the database. And now we are just seeing how it's possible for us to very limited this option. But now we're still working on it, and we have not the solution now. But for sure, in the coming month, we will have this solution. So that's why we say that it's really important before you load your system. And even if you load it, you still can modify and review data and take off the data you don't want to publish. So that's why we say this is mandatory step. Delete all your identifiable data before loading them. And if, for example, you can decide, for example, in this before loading, you can decide to come here and select the field under the field you want to load in your system and build your dashboard. And at this step, it means that even if we can come back in the back and see the database, it's not possible for us to see the identifiable data. It will be only the non-identifiable data. That's why. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mamadou. Simone, please go ahead.
It's actually to complement. One moment. It's actually to complement Mamadou's answer. I think what can be done also is before like picking out the link is to create an for the admin that is supposed to analyze the data, a monitoring and evaluation form that reads only the anonymized fields from a case file in Primero. It will this form will autofill when the case workers will fill their case. So even the Primero administrator in that case would not have access to this identifiable data, like name, family name, address, maybe details about the assessment and all these other fields that are actually not needed for such reporting. So this can be a step that is done in Primero prior to moving into Power BI. And this will actually simplify a lot the data cleaning process. Mamadou had mentioned that prior to developing these graphs, you need to do the data cleaning on these sheets. So there are forms that need to be deleted. There are fields that might need to be deleted. Instead of doing that and having like a huge amount of cleaning to do, This monitoring and evaluation form will be concentrated on fields from the case files that are actually that we are able to analyze basically, and that are anonymized already, meaning that we will have much less information to work with on Power BI, and meaning also that this will simplify our work on Power BI and keep it anonymous. So I think my advice to all the admin users is to create this kind of monitoring and evaluation form in agreement with the technical CPIMS or GBVIMS groups in countries, and to basically limit the information to what is needed for analysis and reporting. Once this is done, we can move to the steps that Mamadou have shown in terms of exporting the cases into Power BI.
Great suggestion.
Over
Thank
to you. Thank you very much, Simon. You are going to make.
Sorry, go ahead, Mamadou. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you very much, Simon. I see you are really going to make our life very easy with this idea. Thank you very much.
Yes, exactly. No, just was going to say the exact same thing. Thanks, Simon. That was like exactly what I think we needed to hear, and we'll also incorporate this into the guidance. I see your hand up. Please go ahead. I don't know if you're there, and if you have a question, please feel free to unmute yourself. In regards to what Simone had just talked about, if you have any questions about how you create a form with specific fields, please reach out to us over the chat, or of course you can reach out to Simone, Mamadou, Isaiah, myself, and we have guidance as well on the support hub, as well as our YouTube channel. So that's something that we can share with you if you're trying to figure out how to create a specific form for M&E, just like Simone had mentioned. So I'm hoping that everyone that has joined this call was trying this out for themselves on your own computers. And just before we move forward, is there any more questions? So please go ahead.
Thank you, Jan, and thank you, Mahmoud. This is Suhail from Lao BDR, Lao Country Office. So a quick question about the Power BI. So for the longer run, are we supposed to support our counterpart for this, or this is just for UNICEF?
Good question. No, this is something, so most of our Primero implementations are interagency. They are collaborative, multiple partners working together to strengthen our programming. So the intention would be that the Power BI would be a collaborative, multi-partner tool that they can use for their programming insights. But again, I think one thing that Lama is going to talk through is just gathering requirements. And I think one thing that you'll need to get is your interagency buy-in if you have multiple partners. I think in Lao it might be led by the government, so it might need to be more discussed with them on what information should be showing on the Power BI. But so it really depends on the program and what the partners agree to before you're able to move forward in publishing that information. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Hoib. And to be honest, actually, I think in most of our implementations that we have developed this Power BI dashboard, it's a mix of both government-led, such as the one in Burkina Faso, and then interagency, such as the one in Iraq, which Ali had presented to us in a previous Primero Data Challenge. And so it is just a matter of discussing with your teams to see what will help them.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that because we are planning to pilot Primero towards the end of the year, 2024, for where UNICEF is going to take the lead on the CPIMS part of it, and we're trying to get UNFPA to lead on the GVBMIS under the Minister of Social Welfare. So like the overall going to be the government part, and the implementing partner is going to be UNICEF and UNFPA. So I'm just thinking ahead before it happens.
Amazing. Great to hear that. And I think for them too, that would be very key, especially for that buy-in on the UNFPA side too.
Sweet, thank you.
Great. Because we have everyone here, I don't want to rush to the next topic and really just want to make sure that you've had time to walk through. So Pharrell, you're asking for the features which allow others to view the reports on the website. Is there a limit to how many individuals have access? For how long do they have access, or is it indefinite? So it's based on your license. So Mamadou had mentioned, I think right now the Power BI license is roughly around $10 a month, and this allows you to publish your Power BI and make it publicly accessible. But and then what that means is that anybody can access your Power BI via the website. So in the demo that Mamadou had shown you about Burkina Faso, anyone can check out the Burkina Faso Power BI. They can apply different filters and be able to see that information themselves, and there's no limit. The limit comes with your actual individual license to whomever is editing the information. So if you need to be able to have multiple people changing the actual Power BI template itself, there is a need to have a license per person. But to publish it on the website and to have anybody access that website and manipulate those filters, that's indefinite. I hope that answers your question. And thank you, Mamadou, for sticking in the chat. So that is the Burkina Faso Power BI that's been publicly available. We're going to use this as something that you can use for inspiration as you are thinking through these requirements and things like that when you're developing your Power BI. Great. Any more questions? Is the license required to change the information on the website, the same license to have the website, or is it a different license? Mamadou, maybe I'll let you speak to this question.
Okay, thank you very much, Jan. For the license, it's only to modify your data, make the update automatic, and publish it directly to online. This is why you need, for example, the license. And if you have not the license, it's possible for you to update all your data directly in Power BI desktop. You can develop all your different elements, but this will be only for you, but it's possible for you to export, for example, with PDF and share it with your partner. But it's more interesting to have your own license or agency license in Power BI to make all the different elements automatic. For example, in Power BI desktop here, it's not possible for you to make the data update automatic. So it's not possible for you again to share your data with online access. Thank you.
Thanks, Mamadou. I hope that answered your question, Pharrell. Wonderful. Any other questions for those of you interested in Power BI? Okay, so what I'm going to do is going to put in the chat a link to our Primero Data Challenge website. I shared also earlier the direct link to the guidance. And so Mamadou has put together this wonderful piece of work that helps us walk through step by step exactly what he just showed you on the screen with some screenshots. Of course, you can always Google and watch videos online. And if you find any resources that you think will help the Primero community, please also let us know. Because right now, we try to just use this time to show you how do you connect Primero to Power BI, but then there's plentiful amounts of resources to actually show you how to visualize that data. And Mamadou showed you pie graphs and number charts and filters, but really there's lots of different options for you to make a Power BI useful for your program. And so we can continually develop this guidance just based on your feedback. And so please reach out anytime if you think there are other things that might be missing in this documentation or other things that you think that we need to focus on. But hopefully this gives you all a good start in developing your dashboards. So with that said, if there are no more questions for Mamadou, who is our Primero team expert really on Power BI, I'm going to say thank you so much to Mamadou for all of your hard work and your support to the countries in developing these dashboards. And if you continue to have questions, please put them in the chat for Mamadou. And we'll move to the next item on the agenda. Thanks so much, Mamadou. So I'm going to share my screen, and the next presentation now is from Lama, who had actually done the exact thing that Mamadou has presented with us, and she's going to walk us through how she worked on this with the UNRWA team and the challenges they faced and her recommendations for the way forward. So over to you, Lama.
Thank you, Jan. Hello, everyone. My name is Lama at UNRWA as Information Management Specialist at the Social Services Department. UNRWA stands for United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in the Near East. So we started working with Primero at 2021. And we started working on Power BI on March 2023. For us, the approach that we followed on Primero, that we start the case with an individual, and following the family approach, we work on the assessment, the case plan, and the interventions with the whole family. So each case for us means a family, not a single child. So can you move to the next slide, please, John? Okay, so the objectives, why we wanted to use Power BI. To monitor field offices, operations, and each field officer to monitor the areas. Okay, so the next one is beneficiaries insights to analyze demographics and service delivery data, helping supervisors to monitor and track the progress of the social workers and the cases, trend analysis of protection risks and concerns, and to improve program interventions and advocacy. Okay, so the next step was to collect the requirements. The first step is to prepare the collecting the requirements. Why we want to start working on Power BI? Who are the main stakeholders in this process? And what is the goal of creating this report. Capture detailed requirements from all stakeholders at different levels because they have different perspective. Specify visualization preferences, column chart, bar chart, pie chart, line chart, cards, and so on. Address challenges that we face with our current data reports. For example, if we wanted to create reports on Primero itself, there is a load because we wanted, for example, to extract the cases on Excel, so it causes a load on the system. Also, some of the supervisors do not have the computer literacy, so it was hard for them to extract reports. So it would be easier for them to use Power BI as a ready reports. Okay. And to specify what are the key performance indicators, KPIs, to track and the decisions we wanted to take based on the data. Start data preparation and cleaning process. After extraction of the data, we needed to start the cleaning, the format, make sure it is suitable for analysis. Also, in case there is some fields needed filtering or aggregation or validation, and the conversion of the data formats. The next slide, please. Develop, implement reports and dashboards and build them on Power BI, and then iterate with the feedback, getting feedback from the different stakeholders levels, and then test and validate data accuracy. Ensure the data is complete and up to date, and ensure the report is user-friendly and meet the needs. Training and documentation, provide training sessions for all social workers, for all supervisors and stakeholders, and create user guides to explain how to use those visualizations effectively. Ongoing review and improvement. The next slide, please. Challenges. Lack of clarity of requirements because it's a new exercise and some of the stakeholders are having unclear or vague requirements. Data quality and completeness. Poor data quality can lead to misleading insights. And data depends on human data entry, so there are many reasons to have data quality issues. For example, human error, incorrect values, typographical errors, fatigue and distraction. They might be sitting in crowded places, or they might have internet or electricity connectivity issues. Time pressure, working under tight deadlines can lead to rushed data entry and a higher chance of mistakes. Technical constraints. We tried to develop Power BI reports through using Primero as a web source through the API, not Excel files, but we noticed it might affect the system. It would have a case load on the system, and we couldn't get all the cases that we want. So we are using Excel as a workaround. Limited data literacy. Stakeholders might have varying levels of data literacy, affecting their ability to articulate needs or use the reports effectively. Extracting data at different times can result in data variation because the information updated frequently. Recommendations. So to solve this issue, extracting data at different times, because the data might be updated or changed in between. This means the information we analyze could be inconsistent, leading to conflicts in our findings. So the solution is to make sure to pull the data at the same time to keep it consistent. Engage stakeholders early and often. We need to engage them from the start and maintain regular communication throughout the process. document everything, keep detailed documentation of all requirements, decisions, and changes as a reference point, and it would help to maintain clarity and accountability. Focus on user experience to improve and enhance the reports. Design the reports and dashboards with the end user in mind. Ensure that they are intuitive, easily to navigate, and provide an actionable insights. So now I will show you the report that we have created. Okay. Okay, so this is our report. It contains 12 pages. In all pages, we have filters or slicers on the left-hand side for the date, field name, risk level, case type, and a social worker name. We as UNRWA are responsible for 5 fields of service: Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, West Bank, and Gaza. So we can filter the field name that we want, or even the area name. Okay. Okay. And we can also create date of creation if we want to filter the whole year, specific quarter, or even specific month. Okay. So the first 3 pages, we are talking about cases. And as I mentioned, by cases, we mean families. So the first page, number of cases based on case type, case management, consultation, invalid case, psychological first aid, or termination. And the second one, number of case management cases based on risk level, critical, high, low, medium, and no risk. The second page, number of identified cases based on identifier. How we received the case. Is it self by themselves, the beneficiary, or it was referred by other program? Those are the program names, or by self-identification. The third page, cases based on protection issues. How many GBV cases, other forms of violence, MHPSS, and so on. Okay. Those 3 pages, individuals, we are talking about individuals, direct beneficiaries. So how many total individuals were provided with case management? And for example, number of children provided with case management, number of persons with disabilities provided with case management. And then we divided them by male and female. Okay, and the second page, number of older persons, and also divided by male, female. And the other graphs for GBV, child protection, other forms of violence, children with GBV, and persons with disabilities, child protection, and GBV. The next page, we are talking about social workers. This page to help the supervisors to check about the social workers' updates or progress. For example, let me filter here. Okay, so in Amman North, those are the social workers. Okay, and here we have the percentage of the cases distributed, or the caseload for those social workers out of 100% the total cases of this area. And here we have the number of months for each case, for each one of those social workers, to know how much it takes time for them from case identification till case closure. The third one, number of cases per social worker based on case type. How many case management they have, consultation, other types of cases, and termination. The next page about services, types of intervention services, PSS session, external referral, internal consultation session, and psychological first aid. The last 4 pages, we are talking about the number of cases based on subcategory, child protection subcategories and GBV subcategories. Okay. Those are the subcategories for GBV. Mainly, that's it as this report that we have created for UNRWA. Any questions, please?
Thank you, Lama. I might open up the floor to any questions. You feel free to put up your hand. I also have some questions myself. But we'll first open up to anyone who wants to take the mic. So I guess my question, especially since I think this might be useful for a lot of the people who are on the call who are system administrators. You had mentioned you were kind of gathering requirements from different stakeholders to be able to build this dashboard. And I was just wondering if you could speak a little bit more towards the process of how you figured out who to be speaking to, how did you collect that information that they needed, and then get agreement on the indicators that you were going to put into the Power BI.
Okay, so I have started with us as a social services department from the headquarters, and then the other programs that they are working with us, and they needed some data of us. For example, from us, for example, the protection department about GBV cases, and also collecting requirements from the supervisors themselves and field of social services officers, because the type of data that they want, it is based on their field, based on field requirements, not only the data that we are agreeing with them. So different types of stakeholders, especially people at the field, other programs, for example, also the reporting data analysts from monitoring and evaluation specialists. They requested some data, yearly data that we needed to provide them. So we contacted them frequently to know more about what is required from our side.
Great, thanks, Lama. And then also just wanted to ask, how often are you updating the visualizations, not the actual data, but like adding more indicators, or has it been relatively the same indicators that you showed us since you initially developed it?
It started very smaller than this, but after getting feedback and reviewing with all those stakeholders, it got this big. Maybe monthly, each month we are adding some new indicators and new fields. But updating the actual data is daily.
Definitely. No, that makes sense. And then just last question from me is, are you the only person who's updating the Power BI dashboard, or are there other people on your team that are helping you?
No, actually, it's only me.
Okay, great. Thanks, Lama. Any
Thank
questions?
you.
Ascanio, please go ahead.
Thank you, Jan. Ascanio Jimenez, Dominican Republic. Regards for everyone. Is there any other visualization tools that support your system, Primero, or maybe Google Data Studio or Tableau? Is possible to integrate those kind of visualization tools apart of Power BI? That's my question.
Great question. Yeah, so Power BI we were doing it for this data challenge since it's the one that's the most accessible to most people, and especially because they have a free desktop application. So it just seemed to be the right visualization tool for most of the partners in UNICEF. But no, as long as the receiving software, like I'm pretty sure Tableau has the ability to receive information via the Primero API, then you will be able to do that in any of those systems. I'm not too sure about Google Analytics, but I assume it's going to be the same thing. But yeah, as long as there's API availability that we can connect to, then it's no problem.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. That's good. Great question, Escanio. Any other questions for Lama or even for Mamadou on the Power BI before we totally switch gears for the last section of this agenda? Okay, well, thank you so much, Lama, for taking the time to present this. And if you have any questions for Lama, please continue to put your questions into the chat. And happy to also support any of you in your Power BI journey and share with you the resources as well. So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk to you about the child functioning module. Lucy wasn't able to make today's call, but so I'm just going to speak on her behalf, and I'm not going to do it as eloquently as she typically does. But what she had walked us through was the Washington Group and UNICEF's Child Functioning Module, which is essentially a disabilities questionnaire that is based on good practice. It was developed by the Washington Group, World Bank, and UNICEF, and it was to essentially have a questionnaire that we now have built into Primero. So I'm going to just put this link also into the chat so you can have a look at it if you're interested and if your program is interested. And so one of the ones that I'll just show you was the Washington Group ages 2 to 4 questionnaire. And it looks something like this. Essentially, a social worker will walk through this questionnaire and ask specific questions. So, for example, the interviewer would read a question like, I would like to ask you some questions about difficulties your child may have. And then the first question may be about vision. So the question would be, does your child wear glasses? Yes or no? And if they say no, you can skip to a specific question like CF3. But if they say yes, you proceed on to the next question about their difficulties in seeing. So all of these questions that have been approved on the UNICEF side through the Washington Group project has now been built into Primero. So here we have this new module, which we call the child functioning, and we've built it exactly as the guidance has shown us in the documentation I just shared in the chat. So essentially it starts with, I'll just zoom in a little bit more. Are you ready to start the module? You can say yes. And then confirming the age, because the questions are different between 2 and 4 and 5 and 7. And then it gets started into the questions where we have built-in guidance as well as the questions where you can click on a question and it proceeds with skip logic to show you exactly the information that you need to see based on that guidance. This is something that just recently got finalized on the Primero side, and now we wanted to socialize this with you to see if it would be interesting for your programs. It's not just the forms that need to be implemented, but it's also there's a training accompaniment that should be shared with your caseworkers if this is something that is interesting to you. So I don't want to get too far into this, but essentially I will be reaching out to all of your programs, those that have already started, as well as those who are interested, to see if this is something that you want to enable in your implementation. And this will also be able to be more standardized if you're going to do reporting on disabilities. So if you have any questions on this or would like to have access to our training site to try this out yourself, as well as give us any feedback on this too, this is something that I'm very happy to share with you in the chat, and we can go from there. We ideally would like to select a few pilot countries that we can implement this function, the child functioning module in, and see how it goes. And no matter what, whenever we have now a new Primero implementation, this is going to be something that we will offer as well as an option in the implementation. But of course, for especially those of you who are in child protection, this needs to be agreed to by the interagency working groups and the government, if the government is involved. It should be embedded in your standard operating procedures, as well as in the paper forms that caseworkers are using as well. So it's not just going to be a functionality you can turn on, it needs to be embedded in the programming as well. And we have lots of tools and resources to support you in doing that. So with that said, I'm going to stop sharing my screen just to see if there are any additional questions or comments from today's Primero Data Challenge. All right. So the next thing really is we wanted your suggestions on next steps. We want to have a Primero Data Challenge every quarter, as I mentioned. And so our next one is going to be on September 26th. So every quarter. And so if you have any specific ideas for the next PDC, please let us know. You can reach out to Mamadou, Isaiah, Simone, and Mohan, who's not on this call, but Mohan, who's based in Bangkok. And we would love to be able to showcase any of the things that you're working on in your programs here during this time and for the Primero community. And as I also mentioned, you can go into the Primero Data Challenge team site, which is located here. And Robert has totally revamped this website where you're able to now filter in the top right-hand corner by the previous webinars, as well as the one that I am continually referring back to is our first one from Q1 of 2023. And if you scroll down to the middle, here you will find the guidance for how to link Primero to Power BI. So with that said, thank you so much, everyone, for your time. And yeah, Niall, please go ahead if you have any comments. I'm not sure, Niall, if you can unmute yourself, please go ahead, or you can also put your question in the chat if you have one. Great. Well, I'll still stay on the line for any of you who have any questions or comments. Otherwise, thank you so much, everyone, for joining today, and look forward to speaking with you all in other calls. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jan. Bye.
Thanks, Mamadou. Thanks, Lama.
Thanks. Bye-bye.